So the way I see it, I might as well record what I'm doing for documentation purposes, for Google Gods to see what I am doing, for you to say, have some background noise, and for me to be something and tantamount to progress. So I gotta be done at 4. So at 4:10, I'll be in the tent with my niece Arabella, who I gave my most prized possession to, my necklace. That has a guardian angel in it. As far as any nonsense that goes to, as far as any nonsense associated with that, it's kind of like, am I gullible or schizo? Hard to say. I just know I don't have a camera, so this isn't as fun. I'm just bouncing back and forth. Anyways, yeah. Maybe I'll make some money off of YouTube. Who knows? But this is the Unreal documentation. I'm gonna read through all of it and then see what I can do. Static actors. Static mobility is reserved for actors that will not move or update in any way during gameplay. Static mesh actors whose mobility is set to static have their shadows contribute to pre-calculated light maps that use light masks to generate and process them. This mobility makes them ideal for structural or decorative meshes that never need to relocate during gameplay. Note, however, that their materials can still be animated. Light actors whose mobility is set to static contribute to pre-calculated light maps that use light masks. They illuminate the level for static and stationary actors. For movable actors, they use an indirect lighting method like volumetric light maps. For more information, refer to the static light mobility page. Stationary actors. Scrolling down. Stationary mobility is reserved for actors that can change during gameplay but not move. Static mesh actors whose mobility is set to stationary can be changed but not moved. They do not contribute to pre-calculated light maps using light masks and are lit like movable actors when lit by a static or stationary light. However, when lit by movable light, they will use a cast shadow map to reuse for the next frame when the light is not moving, which can improve performance for projects like dynamic lighting. Light actors whose mobility is set to stationary can change in some way during gameplay, such as having their color or intensity change to be brighter or dimmer, or even being completely off. Stationary lights still contribute to pre-calculated light maps using light masks, but can also cast dynamic shadows for moving objects. Too many stationary lights affecting the same actor can have a significant impact on performance. Refer to the stationary light mobility page for more information. Movable actors. Movable mobility is reserved for actors that need to be added, removed, or changed in some way during gameplay. This includes moving, scaling, swapping with another actor, and so on. Static mesh actors whose mobility is set to movable cast fully dynamic shadows that do not contribute to pre-computed lighting stored in light maps. The way movable static mesh actors interact with light depends on the light type. Movable light. The actor only casts only a dynamic shadow. Only. Stationary light. The actor uses a combination of dynamic shadowing and pre-computed lighting data, such as volumetric light maps. Static light. The actor is only lit by pre-computed lighting data and does not cast any dynamic shadows. Light. Actors whose mobility is set to movable can only cast dynamic shadows. In addition to being able to move the light during gameplay, they can also change their color, intensity at runtime and have it update the scene accordingly. However, care must be taken when making these lights cast dynamic shadows, since their shadowing method is most performance intensive, depending on which shadow casting features are enabled for your project. Movable lights also support Lumen, the dynamic global illumination reflection system. Non-shadow casting movable lights can add no cost to scene rendering due to Unreal Engine's deferred rendering system. That was actor mobility. My nose is clogging up for once. It's kind of weird. I think our bell got me sick. Roaming actors. How do we work with groups of actors on Unreal Engine? Prerequisite topics in order to understand and use the content on this page. Make sure you are familiar with defining topics, selecting actors. Group actors together so you can manage multiple actors at the same time. With actor groups, you can transform group actors as a single unit through rotation, translation, and my nose is. And not miss that. Individual actor transformation is locked while actors are part of a group. Temporarily unlock a group to transform individual actors, then lock it again to freeze the actors inside the group to prevent changes to an individual actor's transforms. Add and remove actors from a group. The actor can only belong to one group at a time. Before you can group actors together, I can't drink that yet until I finish this page. You need to make sure that you allow group selection option. The group selection option is enabled. Make sure that the allow group selection option is enabled. Gibberish. This option is located in the settings menu on the main toolbar. You also toggle this option when using the Control-Shift-G shortcut keyboard shortcut. Allow group selection option in the settings menu. Grouping actors to group two or more actors together. Select the actors, then do either of the following. Right-click one of the selected actors to bring up the context menu, then select Group. Use the Control-G keyboard shortcut. Actor groups are delineated with green brackets in the viewport. An actor group consisting of 4 static mesh actors. Any transformations will affect all actors in this group simultaneously. It is not possible to group actors that are in different levels. Moving an actor that is currently in a group from one level to another will remove it from the existing group. However, you can move entire groups across levels. You can group actors together, and you can create group actor in the World Outliner. Select all actors in that group. You can select either the group actor or any member of the group. That's a lot of stuff. a group actor, and the world outliner. For more information about selection, refer to selecting actors documentation, working with actor groups. Actor group options are located in the group section of the context menu that opens when you right-click selection of actors or an actor group in the viewport or in the world outliner. The sections below describe the options for working with groups in Unreal Engine. Regrouping. When a selection contains at least one group and other ungrouped actors, the regroup option becomes available in the context menu. Regrouping removes all selected actors from any existing groups, then creates a new group from all selected actors. Use this option to quickly create a new group out of a selection without needing to manually disband other groups. You can also use the Control-D keyboard shortcut to regroup actors. This shortcut behaves differently depending on whether you have selected new actor groups. Control-G creates a new group, that contains all the selected actors, at least one actor group. Control-G forms a regroup as described above. Bruv? Where's the R? Alright. Group on-grouping. The on-group option removes all actors from selected groups and deletes the groups. For groups that are unlocked, the on-group operation will remove the selected actors from the group without attempting to keep them within any existing hierarchy. You can also use the Shift-G keyboard shortcut to ungroup actors and or nested groups. Lock and unlock group. The lock and unlock options are available when you are working with an existing group. By default, newly created groups are in a locked state. When a group is in a locked state, if you select any actor in a locked group, the entire group will be selected. Transformations will affect all actors in the group. If a group is unlocked, you can select and transform individual actors that are part of that group. Remove actors from the group. The brackets surrounding a group indicate whether it is currently locked or unlocked. Green brackets signify that the group is locked. Red brackets mean that the group is unlocked. Left, a locked actor group. The brackets around it are green and the pivot point is at the center of the group. Right, an unlocked actor group. The rightmost cube is currently selected and can be transformed individually. Adding and removing actors. The Add to Group option is only available after you select one group and other on-group actors. This option tends to add the on-group actors to the existing group. To remove from group option is only available after you select one or more actors in the unlocked group. This option will remove the selected actors from the group. If a nested group is removed from a larger group, it will still remain a group itself. If a group contains no actors, it is automatically deleted, and this group actor is removed from the world outliner. Transforming actors and actor groups. The pivot point of an actor group is automatically set to the center point of that group. When the group is locked, You can only transform all actors inside the group around the group's pivot points. To transform individual actors around their own pivot points, you must unlock the group first. To set the pivot point of an actor group, select the group. Then hold down the Alt key and middle click the location where you want to set the pivot point. Alternatively, middle click and drag the spear at the center of the group's transformation gizmo to move the pivot point. This GIF illustrates how to move the pivot point of an actor group and demonstrates how the actor group rotates around the new pivot point. On to merging actors. And also a drink of a bang. Purple haze. Don't give a fuck what other people say. Purple haze. You'll be answering on Judgment Day. Purple haze. Hey, I thought it was second verse for once. Normally I just fucking repeat one line. Not second verse, but like second line. Normally I just chant one line until like I get it how I want to say it. It's not really fair because I'm just repeating Purple Rain or Chocolate Rain. Chocolate Rain. Yeah, there's a little sounds like rain. Merging actors, how to merge two or more static mesh actors into a single actor in Unreal Engine. Prerequisite topics. In order to understand how to use the content on this page, make sure you are familiar with the following topics. In Unreal Engine, you can combine two or more static mesh actors into a single new actor using actor merging. This reduces the control codes and helps you with project cost optimization. Actor merging workflow. To merge two or more static mesh actors inside the level, follow these steps in the level viewport or outliner. Select the static mesh actors you want to merge. From the top of the tube, go to merge actors and from actor. Select the type of merge you want to perform. Merge, simplify, batch, or approximate. To refer to merge types section on this page for more information. The option you will select will perform the merge automatically using the default last configured setting. Is to configure merge options from the top menu bar. Go to actor, merge actor settings. Name your new actor and select the folder where it should be created, then click save. Merge types. Unreal Engine offers different methods to merge static mesh actors, depending on what you are merging. Merge, simplify, batch, approximate. These options are described below. Merge. By default, this method merges all selected static mesh actors, creating one mesh section for each material. You can specify LUT values to use the number of draw cells equivalent to the number of materials. This method preserves UVs. You can also select to merge all materials, which base is a single material for the entire mesh. This results in a single section and a single draw call. It does not preserve UVs. Occlusion culling is performed per section. Simplify. This method merges all selected static mesh actors into a single mesh, called proxy mesh, and uses the lowest default LUTs of each selected mesh and simplifies mesh geometry based on the settings provided. Vertex count is also reduced. This method results in one draw cell. It bakes one material for each mesh, and does not preserve UVs. Occlusion culling performed for the whole mesh. Refer to the proxy geometry overview page for more information. Additional information. This method creates instance static mesh components from identical static mesh components. It preserves UVs and does not affect occlusion culling. Approximate. This method is new to Unreal Engine 5, similar to the simplify merge method. The difference is that it can handle much more complex source meshes, for example, nanite meshes, whereas simplify method would fail during either simplification or the texture breaking steps. Merge settings. You can configure individual merge settings from the Merge Actor Settings panel. To access this panel from the top menu bar, go to Actor, Merge Actors, Merge Actor Settings. Merge. When using this merge method, you can configure the options below. Mesh settings. The mesh settings section contains. I only did a half hour yesterday, so I started a half hour before the hour, so we balance out. Mesh settings. The mesh settings section contains properties that affect the static meshes that will be merged. Option description. Pivot point at 0. If enabled, the pivot point of the merge actor will be set to the level's origin, 0, 0, 0. If disabled, the point of the merge actor will be the pivot point of the first static mesh actor selected for the merge. Merge physics data. Merges all of the collision primitives into a single physics object. Break vertex data to mesh. Breaks vertex data, including vertex color and normals, into a merge static mesh actor. Output UVs in a way that contains multiple UV channels. If the source meshes contain valued UVs for a specified channel, you can select whether or not to output the UV channel into the merged static mesh actor. LOD selection type. Control which LODs are added to the merge object. You can select one of the following options. Use all LOD levels. Use all available LOD levels. Use specific LOD levels. Use only selected LOD levels. Calculate correct LOD levels. Use the optimum LOD level for the given screen size. Always use the lowest detail LOD, the highest LOD index. Use the lowest detail LOD available. Include imposters. If enabled, the merge will include imposter LODs that are part of the source's static meshes. Allow distance field. If enabled, a distance field will be computed for the mesh. Disable this option to save memory if the merged mesh will only be rendered in the distance. Generate light map UVs. Creates a new light map UV layout for the merged static mesh actor using the existing UV islands. This new layout will be placed in the target light map UV channel. Generate nanite enabled mesh. If enabled, generates the nanite enabled mesh. Target light map resolution. Specifies the resolution for the new light map UVs, which controls the distance calculated between each island within the layout. Higher resolutions will yield tighter spacing between each island. Computed light map resolution. If enabled, light map resolution will be computed by summing up the light map resolutions or source static meshes. Material settings. Material settings section. This is a long one. I'm gonna drink. material settings. The material settings section contains properties that affect the textures and materials of the static meshes to be merged. You can merge materials. For multiple static meshes, there's the LOD section selection type option in the mesh settings section is to use all LOD for levels. Option description. Merge materials. If enabled, the materials of all the merge assets will be combined into a single material with a new UV layout. The following subsettings only become available if merge materials is enabled. Texture size sets the horizontal X and vertical Y pixel dimensions or resolution for the final merged materials setting textures. Texture sizing type. Normal map, if enabled, generates a normal map for the merged actor. Tangent map, if enabled, generates a tangent map for the merged actor. Metallic map, if enabled, generates a metallic map for the merged actor. While this option is enabled, the metallic constant property has no effect. Metallic constant sets the constant value for metallic property of the merged actor's material. Only enabled if the metallic map option is unchecked. Roughness map, if enabled, generates a roughness map for the merged actor. While this option is enabled, the roughness constant property has no effect. Roughness constant, speaking of, sets the constant value for the roughness property of the merged actor's material. Only enabled if the roughness map option is unchecked. Anisotropy map, if enabled, generates an anisotropy map for the merged actor. Anisotropy is a material's property to change its appearance depending on the direction it is viewed from. While this option is enabled, the anisotropy constant property has no effect. Anisotropy constant sets the constant value for anisotropy property of the merged actor's material, only enabled if the anisotropy map option is unchecked. Specular map, if enabled, generates a specular map for the merged actor. While this option is enabled, the specular constant property has no effect. Specular constant sets the constant value for the specular property of the merged actor's material, only enabled if specular map option is unchecked. Emissive map, if enabled, generates an emissive map for the merged actor. Opacity map, if enabled, generates an opacity map for the merged actor. Once this option is enabled, the opacity constant property has no effect. You must also set the blend mode to translucent for opacity to work correctly in the generated instances. Opacity constant sets the constant value for the opacity property of the merged actor's material, only enabled if the opacity map option is unchecked. Opacity mask map, if enabled, generates an opacity map for the merged actor. While this option is enabled, the opacity mask constant property has no effect. You must also set the blend mode to masked for opacity to work correctly in the generative instances. Fart. From a yoga ball. It's just a cloud of farts. Opacity mask constant sets the constant value for the opacity mask property of the merged actor's material, only enabled if the opacity mask map option is unchecked. Ambient occlusion map, if enabled, generates an ambient occlusion map for the merged actor. Once option is enabled, the ambient occlusion constant property has no effect. Ambient occlusion constant, speaking of, sets a constant value for the ambient occlusion property for the merged actor's material, only enabled if the ambient occlusion map option is unchecked. Tangent texture size sets the horizontal X and vertical Y pixel dimensions
or resolution for the merged actor's tangent texture. Enabled when texture sizing type is set to use per property manually overridden texture sizes. Anisotropy texture size sets the horizontal x and vertical y pixel dimensions or resolution for the merged actor's anisotropy texture. Enabled when texture sizing type is set to use per property manually overridden texture sizes. Blend mode sets how the material's color is blended with background colors. You can choose from the following options. Opaque defines a surface through which the light neither passes nor penetrates. Masked. I don't know why I felt like I said it wrong. Defines either, I was definitely wrong, either weather. The merged material will use masking, that is, have different areas be visible or not based on masking texture. Translucent defines the visibility of a material by using an opacity value. Additive takes the pixels of the material and adds them to the pixels of the background. Modulate multiplies the material against the pixels of the background. Alpha composite used with textures that already have a pre-multiplied alpha. Alpha holdout creates a cutout effect by holding out the alpha material and punching a hole through objects behind it. Allow two-sided material. If enabled, the generated material will be two-sided. Gutter size sets the space in pixels between UV islands at the original texture resolution for the baked material. Space helps prevent the colors of your islands from overlapping. Otherwise, artifacts can appear on the mesh as downsampling of texture occurs at render. The reduced texture sizes are known as bitmaps. Create merged material. If enabled, creates a flat material from all materials of the actors to be merged, along with a new set of UVs. By default, this material will not be applied to any section. Use vertex data for baking material. If enabled, use vertex data such as vertex color to bake material results. This is useful if you have material that is being controlled in some way by vertex color. Use texture binning. Go through the varying output textures sizes according to their importance when packing the final atlas texture. Reuse mesh light map UVs. If enabled, reuse the light map UVs of the source static meshes when baking the material. If disabled, generates a new set of light map UVs. Merge equivalent materials. If enabled, attempts to merge materials that are deemed equivalent. Enabling this option can cause artifacts in the static mesh. Merge static mesh if output color is determined by world position or actor position. Take a drink. Caffeine. Landscape coloring. No, I don't want to do that. If the landscape culling option is enabled, Unreal Engine will use existing landscape geometry to cull fully occluded triangles when merging actors. For example, if you have a tree mesh that is planted such that the bottommost triangles are well below the surface of a landscape, then those occluded triangles will be removed after the merge. Simplify. When using the simplify merge method, you can configure the options below. Proxy settings. Option description. Screen size. Screen size of the merged static mesh in pixels. calculate correct LOD model. If enabled, calculates the correct LOD models based on source meshes and transition size. Overrides visual sampling distance. Overrides spatial sampling distance when converting multiple static meshes for proxy load merging. Merge geometry with high sampling can have very high memory costs. Material settings. You can configure the same material settings described in the merge section on this page. Merge distance sets the distance at which meshes are merged together. For example, they can fill in gaps like doors and windows in distant geometry. Unresolved geometry color sets the color to be assigned to LOD geometry that can't be associated with the source geometry. For example, doors and windows that were further than the merged distance and were filled in. You can set red, green, and blue RGB values as well as an alpha A value that controls transparency. Transfer distance override overrides the search distance at which Unreal Engine discovers texture values for simplified geometry. This is useful if you set a manual value greater than 0 for the merge distance option, which generates new geometry in concave corners. Hard edge angle sets the angle at which a hard edge is introduced between the faces of the merged static mesh. This option increases vertex count and might introduce additional UV seams. It is only recommended if you are not using normal maps. Normal calculation method. Select the method used for control normal calculation for the simplified geometry. You can choose from the following options. Angle weighted. Use the angle of a triangle as at a vertex to weight how much that triangle's normal contributes to the vertex normal. Area weighted. Use triangle area to weight how much triangle's normal contributes to its vertices normals. Equal weighted. Average the normal of each triangle sharing a vertex. For more information about normal calculation, refer to the normal calculation method page. Light map resolution. That's the light map resolution. Compute light map resolution. If enabled, computes light map resolution as the sum of the dimensions for each mesh included before merging. Enable volume culling. If enabled, culling volumes can exclude geometry. Allow adjacency. If enabled, allows adjacency buffers for tessellation in the merged static mesh. Allow distance field. If enabled, distance field will be computed for this mesh. Disable this option to save memory if this mesh will only be rendered in the distance. Reuse mesh light map UVs. If enabled, attempts to reuse the light map UVs of the source data meshes when baking the material. If enabled, generates a new set of light map UVs. Group identical meshes for baking. If enabled, bakes identical meshes or mesh instances only once. This results in better quality baked textures and greatly reduces baking time. This can lead to discrepancies within the source mesh visual, especially for materials that are using world position or port instance data. Create collision. If enabled, generates collision for the merged static mesh. Allow vertex colors. If enabled, vertex colors will be saved in the merged static mesh. Generate lightmap UVs. Create a new lightmap UV layout for the merged static mesh actor using the existing UV islands. This new layout will be placed in the target lightmap UV channel. Generate nanite enabled mesh. If enabled, notice a nanite enabled mesh. Wow. Batch. When using the merge method, you can configure the options below. Option description. After class to use. Select the class to use for the instance static meshes. Instance replacement threshold. Sets the minimum number of static mesh instances needed before a static mesh is replaced with an instance version. Skip meshes with vertex colors. If enabled, static meshes that use the vertex colors will not be instanced. This prevents data loss because instance data static meshes do not support vertex colors per instance. Use HLOD volumes. If enabled, instance static meshes will be split up based on their intersection with the HLOD volumes. Select the types of instance component. Select the type of instance component to use for the instance static meshes. Approximate. When using the approximate merge method, you can configure the options below. Mesh generation settings, shape settings, description, output, type. The output type from the type of output from the mesh approximation process. Mesh and materials generates both the mesh and its material. Mesh shape only. Skips the material baking step and only generates the mesh. Approximation accuracy. The approximation accuracy in meters, which will determine, for example, voxel resolution. Attempt auto thickening. If enabled, it attempts to auto thicken the thin parts of or flat sheets. Target minimum thickness multiplier. Multiplier on approximation accuracy used for auto thickening. Ignore tiny parts. If enabled, tiny parts will be excluded from mesh merging, which can improve performance. Tiny part size multiplier. Multiplier on approximation accuracy used to define tiny part threshold using maximum bounding box dimension. Base capping. Optionally close off the bottom of open meshes. Possible options are no base capping, convex polygon, as a downwards facing polygon at the base of the mesh. Convex solid, as a downwards facing polygon at the base of the mesh, thickens it into a closed solid. These options can have very different effects, resulting mesh depending on whether or not the. I gotta poop. Okay, I am back. These options can have very different effects on the resulting mesh depending on whether or not the other input objects are closed meshes, as well as the winding threshold. For example, a large mountain scan that is on cap should use the polygon and not the solid. But if it's many kit bash mesh parts, the open mesh can introduce significant problems, and using the solid mesh may be more reliable. Fill gaps. If enabled, topology is expanded, contracted. Fill small gaps between objects. Gap filling distance. The distance in meters expand, contract to fill gaps. Clamp voxel dimension. Maximum allowable voxel count along main directions. This is a limit on approximation accuracy. Winding threshold. The winding threshold controls hole filling in the open mesh borders. R value means more or rounder filling. Filing is an E. Whoa. You got nudged. Poor baby. I need a mushroom eyeball. Output mesh filtering in simplification settings. Output description. Occlusion method. The type of hidden geometry removal to apply. No occlusion filtering. Visibility based filtering. Occlude from bottom. If enabled, then the occlusion method computation is configured to try to consider downward facing bottom geometry as occluded. Simplify method. Mesh simplification criteria. Geometry tolerance constrains simplification to a maximum geometry deviation from the input meshes. The maximum is provided by the geometry deviation option below. Fixed triangle count. Simplification will aim to reach target count of triangles provided by the target try count option below. Triangles per area. Simplification will aim for a number of triangles per square meter divided by triangles per m option below. Geometric deviation. The allowable geometric deviation in meters used when the following simplified method is set to geometric tolerance. Target try count. Target triangle count for mesh simplification used when the simplified method is set to fixed triangle count. Triangles per m. The approximate number of triangles per square meter used when the simplified method is set to triangles per area. Ground clipping configures how the final mesh should be clipped with a ground plane if desired. The options are: no ground clipping, does not perform ground clipping, discard with Z-plane, discards triangles whose vertices are all below the clip plane. Cut with Z-plane, forms a mesh cut to eliminate a portion of the mesh that is below the clip plane. Cut and fill with Z-plane, same as the cut with Z-plane option above, and also closes the cut mesh by inserting new triangles where the cut was performed. For all of these options, the height Z of the clip plane is provided by the ground clipping Z height option. Ground clipping Z height. Z height for ground clipping plane, if clipping is enabled. Mesh normals and tangent settings. Normal settings description. Eliminate hard normals. If enabled, normal angle will be used to estimate hard normals. Hard normal angle. The normal angle to use to detect hard normals. Mesh UV generation settings. UV settings. Description. UV generation method. The Mesh UV generation method prefer UEAtlas. Uses Microsoft's open source UEAtlas library. For XAtlas, uses the XAtlas open source mesh parameterization UV unwrapping library. Prefer patch builder. Use Unreal Engine's own UV generation algorithm. Initial patch count. The number of initial patches the mesh will be split in two before computing island merging. Only relevant for the patch builder UV generation method. Curvature alignment controls the alignment of the initial patches to creases in the mesh. Only relevant for the patch builder UV generation method. Merge threshold. The distortion stretching threshold for island merging. Larger values increase the allowable UV stretching. Only relevant for the patch builder UV generation method. Max angle deviation. UV islands will not be merged if their average face normals deviate more than this value. Only relevant for the patch builder UV generation method. Output static mesh settings. Mesh settings description. Generate nanite enabled mesh. Whether to generate a nanite enabled mesh. Support ray tracing. Whether ray tracing will be supported on this mesh. Disable this to save memory. The generated mesh will only be rendered in the distance. Allow distance field. Whether to allow a distance field to be computed for this mesh. Disable this to save memory if the generated mesh will only be rendered in the distance. Nanite proxy triangle percent. The percentage of triangles reduced down to when generating coarse proxy mesh from the nanite mesh. Material baking settings. Material settings description. Multi-sampling AA. If this property is greater than 1, multi-sampling output bake textures by this amount in each direction. For example, 4 equals 16. X. Super sampling. Render capture resolution. If this property is 0, use material settings resolution. Otherwise, override the render capture resolution. Material settings. You can capture the same material settings described in the merge section on this page. Capture field view. The field of view angle to use when performing the render capture. Near plane dist. The near plane dist to use when performing the render capture. Debug output settings. Debug settings. Description. Print debug messages. If enabled, print out debugging messages. Emit full debug mesh. If enabled, write the full mesh triangle set. Flattened non-instance for mesh generation. Replace source actors. If the replace source actors option is enabled, the actors selected in the viewport will be removed and replaced with the new merged actor. This will not delete their assets from the content browser or from your project folders. This option is common to all the merged methods described on this page. Where are we? Actor references. I lost the drop. Fuck. Now it will have no effect. I think I know how to set a yoga ball right now. It's fun to have so many options. Diversify and conquer. Diversify your portfolio. Divide and conquer. Straight from the bottom to the top. We're on the rise from the bottom to the top. Oh, surprise, surprise. Breathe in, breathe out. Through my mind, breathe out. Watch you motherfuckers through my words. Fuck with my satisfaction. No that this happened to you. Do me a favor and shut the fuck up. Small brains and such big mouth. It's such a waste, and you will never see. So back the fuck up away from me. Fucking bitches. Perfect quality. Actors reference describes the most common types of actors in Unreal Engine, where you can learn more about them. This page describes the most common types of actors you'll be working with in Unreal Engine. The actors are grouped by purpose and functionality. Each section includes links to other pages and resources where you can learn more about these actors and what you can do with them. Note that this is not a comprehensive list of every actor type available in Unreal Engine. Some plugins and project templates add their own actors, and certain actors may not be available for all projects. Mesh actors. Mesh defines the shape and size of an environment prop or player character. Unreal Engine uses two types of mesh actors. Static mesh actors, which are used to build levels and environments. Skeleton mesh actors, which are typically used for player characters and animated non-player characters, NPCs. Static mesh actors. Static mesh actor is a simple type of actor that displays a mesh in the level. Although the name implies that the actor is static or unable to move, the static refers to the type of mesh used rather than the actor's ability to move. A mesh is static if its geometry does not change. However, the actor itself can be moved or changed in other ways during play. Static mesh actors are commonly used to create game worlds or other types of environments. Refer to static meshes section to learn more. Skeleton mesh actors. Skeleton mesh actor displays an animated mesh whose geometry can be deformed, typically through the use of control points during animation sequences. These can either be created or exported from external 3D animation applications, or programmed directly in Unreal Engine. Skeleton mesh actors are commonly used to represent players, characters, or NPCs, as well as other animated creatures and complex machinery. Refer to the Skeletal Mesh Actors page to learn more. Brush actors, geometry actors. Brush actors are a basic type of actor that displays simple geometry, 3D geometry in the scene, such as spears, cubes, and stairs. These actors can be changed using the geometry editing mode in the level editor. The following types of brush actors are available in the Unreal Engine: box, cone, cylinder, curved stair, linear stair, spiral stair, spear. The brush actors are commonly used to quickly prototype environments and block out levels. Use these to get a rough impression of the size and placement of the environment props. Refer to the Geometry Brush Actors page to learn more. Light actors. As the name suggests, light actors are used to place different types of lights around your level. Some light actors have a limited area of effect around them, while others affect your entire level. Following types of light actors, are available in Unreal Engine. Directional light, point light, spotlight, rect light, skylight. You can learn more about lighting fundamentals Unreal Engine by the following Unreal Online learning courses: Lighting Essential Concepts and Effects, Using Global Illumination, Direction Light Actor. Direction light simulates light that is being emitted from a source that is infinitely far away. This means that all shadows cast at this light will be parallel, and this is the ideal choice for simulating sunlight. Refer to the Directional Lights page to learn more. Point lights work like real-world light bulbs. Point light emits light in all directions from its center. It is a single point in the level. Refer to the point lights page to learn more. Spotlight actor. Spotlights work like a staged light or flashlight. Spotlight emits light outward with a conical shape from a single point. The spotlight's shape is defined by two separate cone angles. Inner cone angle, inside which the light achieves full brightness. Outer cone angle, which defines the outer bounds of the spotlight. From the inner cone angle extending towards the limits of the outer cone angle, the light's intensity falls off, softening around the spotlight's disk of illumination. Refer to the spotlights page to learn more. Rect light actor. Rect lights emit light into the level from a rectangular plane with a defined width and height. You can use these to simulate any kind of light sources that have rectangular surface areas, such as windows, televisions, or monitor screens. Refer to rectangular light areas page to learn more. Skylight actor. Skylight captures the distant parts of your level and applies them to the scene as a light source. And this means that the sky's appearance and its lighting reflections will match, whether your sky is coming from the atmospheric layered clouds on top of a skybox or from distant mountains. If you're developing an augmented reality AR application, consider using an AR Skylight actor instead. AR Skylight is a subclass of the Skylight class that uses real-world environment probes to update reflections. It generates lighting and reflections whenever the corresponding probe's texture updates based on the real-world lighting. This all occurs on the render thread. Refer to the Skylight lights page to learn more. Camera actors. Like their real-world counterpart, camera actors are used to view your level and create cinematic sequences. In addition, there are a number of supporting actors that can be used to simulate real-world camera shots. Refer to camera actors page to learn more. Audio and Unreal actors. Audio and sound actors are used to add music, voice recordings, and sound effects to your level. Ambient sound actor. Use an ambient sound actor to play a looping continuous sound at a specific location and level. Refer to the ambient sound actor user guide page to learn more. With the audio volume actor, you define areas within the blueprint graph that can be used to process sounds and use its settings to apply reverb effects. Set volumes define the zones affected, emulate occlusion on the sound, and define the shape of the sound volume. Refer to the audio volume page to learn more. Gameplay actors trigger inactive functionality. By their name, they have a broad range of uses in all kinds of interactive applications, not just games. Below are the most common types of gameplay actors. Anything that you can use place in the level is called an actor. Volume is a type of actor that it has a three-dimensional shape, such as a cube or sphere. A player start is an actor that is placed in the level to designate where the player character spawns when the player starts the level. Refer to the player start actor page to learn more. Trigger volumes. Triggers are actors that cause an event to occur when something else in the level interacts with them, such as the player, a character, or another object. For example, a player can interact with a trigger to switch on a light. The following types of triggers are available on Unreal Engine: box trigger, capsule trigger, spear trigger. All three of these trigger types have the same functionality. The only thing that's different is the shape. You can choose between different shapes depending on the kind of visual representation the trigger has in your level. In addition, Unreal Engine also has generic trigger volume. Much like geometry actors, you can use this volume to complete prototype interactions in your level. To trigger volume actors page to learn more. Blocking volume. As the name suggests, blocking volumes are used to prevent the player from passing through. For example, you might use blocking volumes so your player doesn't fall off the edges of your game world. Kill Z volume. The Kill Z volume actor instantly kills, destroys the player character once they enter and interact with its volume. You can specify kill condition in the Kill Z volume actor's details panel. Note that the Kill Z volume actor is different from the Kill Z option in the World Settings panel. Destroys the player once they fall past a certain point along the Z axis and vertical axis. Pain causing volume. Pain causing volume causes damage over time to any player or object that enters it. For example, if a player stands in the fire, you can set up a pain causing volume, deal corresponding damage to their health. Don't stand in the fire. For the pain causing volume actor page to learn more. Character and pawn actors. Both pawns and characters are actors that represent player in AI control characters. I don't know why I thought my phone rang. Okay, so that is... Oh, I didn't do anything today. Well, I did an hour. And I've got 5 hours left. A pawn is a physical representation of a player or AI entity within the world. The pawn is not only determines what the player or AI entity looks like visually, but also how it interacts with the world in terms of collisions and other physical interactions. Depending on the type of project you're building, pawn could be a player avatar, car, or have no physical representation at all. There are 2 types of pawns available in Unreal Engine 5. Pawn type description. Pawn is an empty pawn actor. It doesn't have any visual representation, mesh, or controls attached to it. Default pawn. This is a simple pawn actor with spherical collision and built-in flying movement. Note that you need to attach a controller component to it before it responds to player input. Character, a character-specific type of pawn designed for a vertically oriented player character that can walk, run, jump, fly, and swim through the world. In other words, if your player controls a bipedal avatar, for instance a human, the avatar will be a character rather than a pawn. There are several types of actors available in Unreal Engine. When you set up your project, choose the one that best matches the project type. Character type description for the reading. Character. This is a simple character actor with capsule collision. An empty mesh in a character movement, as is. This actor is invisible level. Can be controlled. Archviz character. The Archviz character is based on Unreal Engine's first-person character class. Some of its parameters, such as warp and turn speed, have been adjusted to allow further movement. Smoother movement. This character is optimized for architectural visualization purposes. Projects. Using Archviz character pawn. YouTube. Paper character. The paper character is used in 2D projects. The difference between the paper character and the generic character is that the paper character has a paper flipbook component and sprite to represent the character visually, whereas the generic character uses a three-dimensional mesh, paper 2D sprites. Visual effects actors. Visual effects actors are used to change the look and feel of your level. These actors only have a limited area effect, defined by a finite three-dimensional volume. Post-process volume. Post-process volume applies one or more visual effects to the objects contained within it. Unreal Engine offers a broad range of effects that can be applied, from bloom and vignettes to global illumination and ray tracing reflections. Depending on the size and complexity of your level, as well as your device's specs, post-processing can be a resource-intensive process that can have significant impact on performance at runtime. Refer to the post-process effects section to learn more. Reflection capture actors. Reflection capture actors are used to capture the contents of the level for reflection. They capture a static image of the area around them and map it to a sphere or box shape, depending on the actor's shape. Anything within the volume of a reflection capture actor will have a static image reflected by any reflective surfaces around it. Following types of reflection capture actors are available in the Unreal Engine. Sphere reflection capture, box reflection capture. Refer to the reflections environment page to learn more. Planar reflection actor. Planar reflection actor captures 2D mirror image of the scene. It is ideal for creating mirror reflections, for capturing things that aren't within the current camera view. Refer to the planar reflections page to learn more. Decal actor. Decal actors can be placed over the surface of a mesh to render a material on top of it. Much like a real-world sticker, you can use decals and details and variations of multiple surfaces that use the same texture, like adding water leaks or paint splatters. to modular walls. Refer to the following pages to learn more. Decal actors, mesh decals, world building actors. Use world building actors, add realistic details to your levels, such as sky atmosphere, fog, and volumetric clouds. Sky atmosphere actor. Sky atmosphere actor is physically based sky and atmosphere rendering technique, accessible enough to create an Earth-like atmosphere with time of day featuring sunrise and sunset, or to create an extraterrestrial atmospheres of an exotic nature. It also provides an aerial perspective to which you can simulate transitions from the ground to sky to outer space with proper planetary curvature. Refer to the Sky Atmosphere page to learn more. Volumetric Cloud Actor. Volumetric Cloud Actor is a physically based cloud rendering system that uses a material-driven approach to give artists and designers the freedom to create any type of clouds they need for their projects. The system provides scalable clouds that can adapt to projects using ground views, aerial views, and ground to outer space transitions. Refer to the volumetric clouds page to learn more. Exponential height fog actor. Exponential height fog creates more density at lower altitudes within a level, less density at high altitudes. Transition is smooth, so you never see a hard cutoff as you increase altitude. Exponential height fog also provides two fog colors, one for the hemisphere facing the dominant directional light, directly upward if none exists, and another color for the opposite hemisphere. For the exponential height fog user guide for more page to learn more. Other actors. Unreal Engine contains a number of other actors you can use to add various elements to your level. Some of these actors are enabled by default, while others require that you enable specific plugins first. Learn how to enable plugins in Unreal Engine. Refer to the Working with Plugins page. Text Render Actor. The Text Render Actor provides a simple way to add third-person text to your level. For a quick usage example, create a new third-person project. Then the blue text that reads third person across the floor is rendered using the Text Render Actor. You can create and animate more complex 3D text using 3D text plugin. Go to the 3D text actor page to learn more. Target point actors. Target point actors give you a generic point in the world that you can spawn items from. If you're familiar with other 3D applications such as 3ds Max or Maya, target point actors are very similar to the dummy actors that you find in those programs. What about Blender? Refer to the target point actors page to learn more. Physics volume actor. Describes the properties of physics volumes in Unreal Engine. There are some properties that are designated for the volume, which can be adjusted from the Details panel. Property description. Terminal velocity determines the terminal velocity of pawns using character movement when falling. Priority determines which physics volume takes precedence if they overlap. Fluid friction determines the amount of friction applied by the volume as pawns using character movement move through it. The higher this value, the harder it will be to feel it move through the volume. Water volume determines if the volume contains a fluid like water. Physics on contact determines if the actor is affected by the volume by touching it. By default, an actor must be inside the volume for it to affect them. Static mesh actors. Place static mesh actors in your level to create your game world. The static mesh actor is a simple type of actor that displays a 3D mesh in the level. Although the name implies that the actor is static or unable to move, the static refers to the type of mesh used rather than the actor's ability to move. A mesh is static if its geometry does not change. Otherwise, the actor itself can be moved or changed in other ways during play. Static mesh actors are commonly used to create game worlds or other types of environments. Unreal Engine includes the following default static mesh actors: cube, sphere, cylinder, cone, plane. In addition to these, you can import your own static mesh actors that work great in other 3D applications. To learn more about how to import content into Unreal Engine, refer to the Importing Assets Directly page. Placing a static mesh actor. The quickest way to place a static mesh actor is to drag it into the level viewport from the content browser. You can then use its transform properties to place it where it needs to be. To learn more methods for placing actors, refer to Placing Actors page. Changing a static mesh actor's material. You can override materials applied to a static mesh individually for each static mesh actor. This way, you can use a single static mesh asset more than once in the level while giving each a unique appearance. The example below shows 3 static mesh actors that use the same static mesh. This is a simple 3-dimensional cube. Each actor uses a different material. To replace material assigned to a static mesh, locate the material in the content browser and then drag it over the static mesh actor in the level viewport, as shown in the example below. To learn about other methods for assigning a material to a static mesh, refer to Setting Up Materials with Static Meshes page. The static mesh actor during gameplay. An actor's mobility settings controls whether an actor can move or change in some way during gameplay. By default, static mesh actors have static mobility. To move, rotate, and scale a static mesh actor during play, you must first make it movable. To do this, the actor's details panel set its mobility to movable. To learn more about different mobility settings and how they affect static mesh actors, refer to the Actor Mobility page, Enabling Physics for Static Mesh Actors. If you want a static mesh actor to be affected by gravity collisions, enable Simulate Physics property in the Actors panel, Actors Details panel. Read more about how physics are implemented in Unreal Engine in the Physics section. In the example below, Sphere's static mesh actor has Simulate Physics enabled. When simulation starts, gravity affects the sphere, makes it fall until it glides with the ground. Enable collision for static mesh actors. Collision is an actor's property to react to other actors in the environment when they collide with that actor. By default, if a static mesh has physics bodies, either generated in your 3D authoring package, CFEX content pipeline, with static mesh editor, the collision response reference. It will have collision and it will be set to block all. Refer to the collision documentation for more information on different types of collision and how they affect a static mesh actor. Skeleton mesh actors. Use skeleton mesh actors to create player avatars populate your game world. The skeleton mesh actor displays an animated mesh whose geometry can be deformed, typically through the use of control points during animation sequences. These can either be created and exported from external 3D animation applications or programmed directly into Unreal Engine. Learn more about how to import content into Unreal Engine for the Importing Assets Directly page. Like the name suggests, skeleton meshes have a skeleton that consists of a number of bones. These are used in the animation process. Skeleton mesh actors commonly used to represent player characters, NPCs, other animated characters, and complex machinery. The Unreal Engine mannequin that appears in the third-person template is an example of the skeleton mesh actor. Placing a skeletal mesh actor. Quickest way to place skeletal mesh actor is drag it to the level viewport from the content browser. You can then use its transform properties to place it where it needs to be. Learn more about other methods of placing actors. Refer to the placing actors page. Animating a skeletal mesh actor. There are two basic ways to animate a skeletal mesh actor in Unreal Engine. Using Animation Blueprint to play and blend multiple animations together. Using Animation Asset to play a single animation sequence one time or in a loop. To learn more about animating skeletal meshes, refer to Skeletal Mesh Animation System page. Changing a skeletal mesh actor's material. You can override material of a skeletal mesh actor individually or to change its appearance. This is useful if you want to use the same static mesh in the level multiple times but want to have some variation between them. The example below shows three skeletal mesh actors that use Unreal Mannequin skeletal mesh. Each actor uses a different material. Didn't know what I was thinking about. If that's how you spell mannequin, because I know they do Manny Quinn, but like that, I think Manny has an I after the N. To replace the material assigned to a skeletal mesh, to locate the material in the content browser, then drag it over the skeletal mesh actor in the level viewport as shown in the example below. Use material with a skeletal mesh actor. You need to enable the mesh used with skeletal mesh option. To do this, in the content browser, double click the material to open it. Material editor. In the details panel, enable the use with skeletal mesh option. The use skeletal mesh option to your editor. Click for full size. Skeletal mesh actor collision. Normal collision creation detection does not work with skeletal mesh actors. To have your skeletal meshes collide with objects in the level, your skeletal mesh actors need to have a physics asset that is specifically created for them. Learn more about physics assets and their use. Refer to the physics asset editor documentation. Create and assign a physics asset to material skeletal mesh actor. Follow these steps. Find the skeletal mesh content browser and right-click it. In the context menu, select Create, Physics Asset, Create and Assign. Creating and assigning physics asset in skeletal mesh. Geometry brush actors. Guide to using BSP brushes. Create level geometry in Unreal Engine. Geometry brushes, also known as binary space partitioning brushes, in Unreal Engine's tool is Unreal Engine's tool for level construction. Conceptually, it is best to think of geometry brush as filling in and carving out volumes of space in your level. You can use the brushes to create basic shapes for your level design process, either as permanent fixtures or as something temporary to test let your artist create the final meshes. Previously, geometry brushes were used as a primary building block in level design. However, that rule has been passed on to static meshes. And in engine modeling tools which are far more efficient. However, geometry brushes can still be helpful in the early stages of a product for rapid prototyping of levels and objects. This document goes over the use of geometry brushes, how to use them for your level. Geometry brushes are not recommended as a final method of level design. It is not required, but can be useful at the early stages of creation. Uses for geometry brushes. While static meshes are now primarily used to populate levels with geometry, geometry brushes still have their place, such as blocking out a level and creating filler geometry. Blocking out levels. Standard workflow for developing a level might go something like blocking out an path level, playtest flow, gameplay, modified layout, and repeat testing, initial meshing pass, initial lighting pass, playtest for collision performance issues, polish pass, brush and roughen, final level. First step is to block out the level to figure out the layout and flow before putting any time into populating the level with static mesh and other finished art assets. Do this by using geometry brushes to create a shell for the level. Then through testing and iterating, team agrees on the final layout. Geometry brushes are perfect for this aspect of the level design process because it does not require any time or involvement from the art team. The level designer can use the tools built into the Unreal editor to create and modify geometry brushes until they're happy with the layout and the way the level plays. As testing finalizes and meshing begins, the level designer gradually replaces geometry brushes with static meshes. This replacement process allows for faster initial iteration and then provides an excellent reference for the art team. Simple filler geometry. Often when a level designer is creating their level, they will come up upon a situation where they need a relatively simple piece of geometry to fill in a gap or space. If no existing static mesh fills the area, instead of tasking the art team to create a custom mesh, the designer will use geometry brushes for the space. Even though static meshes are better performance-wise, you can occasionally use geometry brushes without any serious impact as long as the geometry is simple. Creating brushes. Create a brush using the Geometry tab in the Place Actors panel. Choose Place Actors panel from the Add dropdown. Select the geometry icon. Drag one of the primitive types from the list into a viewport. Choose a brush type, additive, or extractive in the Details panel. Modify the brush type using the brush settings in the Details panel. The Transform widget or activate the brush editing mode. See Modifying brushes for more details. Brush primitives. Primitive description. Creates a geometry brush actor in a box shape that can be customized within the Details panel. Options include X, set the size in the x-axis. Y, set the size in the y-axis. Z, set the size in the z-axis. Wall thickness, if hollow, is checked. Set the thickness of the inner walls of the brush. Hollow, check this box to have a hollow space inside the brush, which is a fast way to make room rather than a solid. If checked, enables wall thickness setting. Tessellate, check this box to tessellate the sides of the box in triangles rather than remaining as squares. Cone creates a geometry brush actor in a cone shape that can then be customized within the details panel. Options include Z, set the height in the Z axis, cat Z if hollow is checked, set the height of the inner cap in the Z axis. Outer radius, set the radius of the base of the cone. Inner radius, if hollow is checked, set the radius of the inner wall of the cone. Sides, set the number of sides around the shape of the cone. Line 2 side. Check this box to align the rotation of the side along the x-axis. Shape it to let one of the angles point down the axis. Hollow. Check this box to have a hollow space inside the brush, which is a fast way to make a room rather than a solid. If checked, enables the inner radius settings. His geometry brush actor in cylinder shape that can be customized in the details panel. Options include Z, set the height in the Z axis, outer radius, set the radius of the cylinder, inner radius if hollow is checked, set the radius of the hollow space inside the cylinder. Sides, set the number of sides around the shape of the cylinder. Side. Take the box to align the rotation of the side along the axis. Disable to let one of the angles point down the axis. Hollow. Check this box to have a hollow space inside the brush, which is a fast way to make a room rather than a solid. If checked, enables the inner radius setting. Curved stair creates geometry brush actor in the curved stair shape, meaning a staircase that bends around at an angle but cannot wrap over itself. For that, you would need a spiral staircase. The curved staircase extends all the way to the ground. The shape that can be customized within the details panel. Options include inner radius, set the radius of the inner column around which the steps will wrap. Step height, set the height of each stair. Step width, set the width of each stair. Angle of curve, set the angle of rotation for each stair. Steps, set the number of steps in the staircase. At the first step, set the additional height to the first step, effectively changing the height of the entire staircase. Enter a negative value to reduce the height of the first step. Counterclockwise. Check this box to curve the stairs counterclockwise rather than clockwise. Linear stair. Creates geometry brush actor in the linear staircase shape, meaning a straight staircase that does not bend. The staircase ascends all the way to the ground. This shape can be customized within the details panel. The options include step length, set the length of each stair. Step height, set the height of each stair. Step width, set the width of each stair. Num steps, set the number of stairs in the staircase. Add to the first step. Set additional heights to the first step. Additional changing the height of the entire staircase. Practically changing the height and start the negative value to reduce the height of the first step. Creates a geometry brush actor in spiral staircase shape, meaning a staircase can repeatedly wrap over itself. The staircase does not extend all the way to the ground. Shape can be customized within the details panel. Options include inner radius. Set the radius of the inner column around which the steps will wrap. Set width. Set the width of each stair. Set height. Set the difference in the height of each stair relative to the stair below it. Step thickness. Set the thickness of the stair. Num steps per 360. Set the number of steps required to make one complete revolution. Num steps. Set the number of steps in the staircase. At the edge of the first step, set the additional height to the first step, effectively changing the height of the entire staircase. Enter negative value to reduce the height of the first step. Slope ceiling. Check this box to create a sloped underside for the staircase rather than tiers. Slope floor. Check this box to create a slope floor, effectively turning it into a spiraling ramp. Instead of a traditional staircase. Counterclockwise. Check this box if you want the stairs to curve counterclockwise instead of clockwise. Spear. Is a geometry brush actor in a spear shape that can be customized within the details panel. Options include radius. Set the radius of the sphere. Tessellation. Set the number of sides used to make the sphere. Due to the method of tessellation, this is capped at 5. Modifying brushes. You can modify brushes using several methods, each suited to particular situations and how you wish to edit the brush. Brush editing mode. The best way to change a brush actual shape is to use brush editing mode. This editor mode allows the direct manipulation of the brush's vertices, edges, and faces. It is very similar to working in a very simplified 3D modeling application. You can have the brush editing and placing actors panel open simultaneously for workflow efficiency. For more information about brush editing mode and how to use it to modify brushes, see the level editor modes page. Transform widgets. It's possible to modify your brush using the various editor transform widgets. These allow you to translate, rotate, and scale interactively and are accessible via the widget buttons in the viewport toolbar. For more information on the transform widgets and how to use them, please see Transforming Actors. Brush properties. You can edit existing brushes by selecting the brush and using the details panel. If you have the entire brush selected, you will see the brush settings category. Brush types. Brush type dropdown includes the following. Brush type dropdown. Additive. Sets the brush additive. Subtractive. Sets the brush subtractive. Each brush type is particularly suited to specific situations. Additive. Additive brushes are solid fill-in spaces. The additive brush is the type you use for the brush geometry you wish to add to your level. Good way to visualize the additive brush is to imagine the four walls, the floor, the ceiling of the room. Each would be a separate box, like additive brush in your map, with corners matching up to form an enclosed space. Subtractive brush is a hollow, carved out space. This is the type of brush you would use to remove solid space to create doors, windows, and so on. From previously created additive brushes, subtractive space is the only area that players can freely move around in. Advanced properties. Clicking the Button at the bottom of the brush settings exposes drop down. Advanced brush set properties. Polygons drop down offers the following options. Polygons drop down. Merge together with any planar faces on a brush. Separate, reverse the effects of a merge. Solidify drop down includes the following. Be sure to read the brush solidity section for more details. Solid, set the brush solidity to be solid. Semi-solid, set the brush solidity to be semi-solid. Non-solid, set the brush solidity to be non-solid. The order drop down includes the following. To be sure to read the brush order section for more in details. To first to last. Order drop down to first. Make the selected brush the first to be calculated. To last, make select the brush the last to be calculated. Line and second mesh buttons. If you expand the properties under the brush settings category, the following buttons appear. Brush type drop down. Line brush vertices. Snap the brush's vertices to the grid. Create static mesh. Convert the current brush to a static mesh actor. Saved at the location specified. Drag grid. The drag grid used to snap objects in the world is very important when working with brushes. If you don't set the edges or corners of the brushes on the grid, errors can occur, causing rendering artifacts or other problems. You should always make sure the drag grid is enabled when working with brushes, and make sure that you keep the vertices of your brushes on the grid at all times. Brush order. The order in which brushes are placed is critical, as the addition and subtraction operations are performed according to this order. Placing a subtracted brush and then an additive brush will not have the same effect as placing an additive brush and then a subtracted brush, even if they're in the exact locations. If you subtract from empty space and add on top, the additive brush is essentially ignored, as you cannot subtract from anything. However, if you place those same brushes in the opposite order, an empty space, then subtract the addition, carving space out of it. Sometimes you may place brushes out of order or want to add a new brush that needs to be calculated before an existing brush. The brush's order can be modified as seen in the brush properties section. Brush surfaces. If you select a brush surface, use Control Shift left click to select the surface and not the brush. If you see the following categories in the details panel. The Geometry category contains a few tools for helping you manage material application across brush surfaces. Geometry category buttons. Select helps you select brush surfaces based on various situations. Alignment realigns the texture coordinates for surfaces based on your desired settings. Useful, for example, when you need a complex arrangement of brushes along the floor to align and look like a single surface. Clean geometry materials. If through any operations your brush surfaces have lost their material, this will fix the problem. Surface properties. The surface properties area contains various tools to help you control how textures are placed across your surfaces. as well as light map resolution. Surface property categories. Pan. The buttons in this section allow you to pan the texture of the material either horizontally or vertically a number of units. It rotates the texture on the brush surface's material by the given number of degrees. Flip allows you to flip the texture on the brush surface horizontally or vertically. Scale resizes the texture of a brush surface by the amount given. Lighting. The lighting section allows you to change the various important light-centric properties for your brush surfaces. Lighting properties. Light map resolution essentially allows for adjustment of shadows across the surface. The lower the number, the tighter shadows. Light mask settings. Legacy, I guess. Use two-sided settings. If checked, the surface will receive light on both the positive and negative sides of each polygon. Shadow indirect only. Check this box to allow the surface to create shadows from indirect lighting. Use emissive for static lighting. Check this box to allow the emissive color of the surface to influence the lighting of static objects. Use vertex normal for hemisphere gather. Check this box to use the vertex normal rather than the default triangle normal that prevents the self-shadowing. Emissive boost. Scales the amount of influence emissive color will have on indirect lighting. Diffuse boost. Scales the amount of influence diffuse color will have on indirect lighting. Fully occluded samples fraction. Fraction of samples once the surface must be occluded before it is considered to be occluded for direct lighting calculations. Brush solidity. Brushes can either be solid, semi-solid, or non-solid. The solidity of a brush refers to whether it collides with objects in the world and whether the brush causes BSV cuts to be created in the surrounding brushes when building geometry. The solidity of brushes can be changed in the details panel after you create a brush. 3 types of solidity are explained below. Solid brushes are the default type of brush. You can get these when you create a new additive abstracted brush. They have the following attributes. Block layers and projectiles in the game. Can be additive or extractive, create cuts in surrounding brushes. Semi-solid. Semi-solid brushes are colliding brushes that can be placed in your level without creating cuts into the surrounding world geometry. You can use it to make pillars and support beams. Though such objects should be created using static meshes, they have the following attributes. Block layers, projectiles, just as solid brushes do. Can only be additive, never extractive. Do not create cuts in surrounding brushes. Non-solid brushes are non-colliding brushes that also do not create cuts in surrounding world geometry. These have the effect of being visible, not unable to be interacted with in any way. They have the following attributes. Do not block layers or projectiles. Can only be additive, never extractive. Do not create cuts in the surrounding brushes. Next steps. After learning the essentials of geometry brushes, you can familiarize yourself with geometry tools in the modeling mode to further develop your level. Use the modeling mode tools on your current geometry brushes. You must convert them using the Create Static Mesh in the Advanced tab. Camera actors. Understanding the fundamentals of cameras in Unreal Engine. Any kind of experience you have you create in Unreal 5, Engine 5, whether it is a game or something else, you will need to you need at least one camera through which a user can view it. Unreal Engine contains different kinds of camera actors that you can use for this purpose. The following types of camera actors are available in Unreal Engine. Camera actor, which is a generic type of camera that can be used as a stationary or mobile viewport. Cine camera actor, the specialized type of camera used to create cinematics. Refer to the Cine camera actor page to learn more. To camera actors, you can use the following types of actors to work with cameras in Unreal Engine. Actor type, description, further reading. Camera blocking volume prevents the camera from entering specific volume. It is useful, for example, to prevent the camera from clipping through walls or other environments. Camera rake crane emulates a boom arm or camera jib system. This is used to create crane shots. The crane can be pivoted along horizontal or vertical axes. It can be extended as needed. Camera rig rail emulates a camera dolly system, which is used to create tracking shots. The rail's track length and curvature can be modified to suit the needs of your shot. Level sequence actor acts as a container for the level sequence asset. Level sequence asset is located in the content browser. It contains sequencer's data. This includes tracks, keyframes, cameras, and animations. This is assigned to level sequence actor in order to bind its data to a level. Placing camera actor. Camera actors are placed from a place actors panel. Add a camera to your level. Bind in the panels in the place camera's actors panel. And then drop it into the level viewport. Previewing a camera actor. If you select a camera actor or a view blueprint that contains a camera component, a separate preview window will open within the level viewport. This window shows what the currently selected camera sees. Preview window of a camera actor. Click the image for full size. Ask questions and help your peers. Help with forums. Drone tutorials are used. Read those from others. Learning library. Audio volume actor. Audio volume. Reference details. Several properties can be adjusted from the details panel on the volume to allow for more control over its effects as seen below. Property description priority. In the event of overlapping volumes, the highest priority volume will be used. The order is undefined if two or more overlapping volumes have the same priority. Apply reverb. Determines if reverb settings should be used. Reverb effect. This is the reverb asset to use for the volume. Volume. This is the overall volume level of the reverb effect. Fade time. This is the time in seconds to fade from the current reverb settings into the volume setting. Enabled determines whether the volume is currently enabled and is able to affect sounds. Ambient zone settings define how sound actors located inside the associated audio volume will be altered by the player's location. The ambient sound zone settings can be adjusted from the details panel. Priority Description: exterior volume. The final volume of exterior sounds. The player is inside the volume. Exterior time. Time to fade to new exterior volume in seconds. Exterior LPF. Low pass filter multiplier applied to exterior sounds when inside 1.0 to apply the maximum LPF. Exterior LPFT time. LPF time. Time to fade to new low pass filter level in seconds. Interior level. The final volume of interior sounds. The player is outside the volume. Interior time. Time to fade to new interior volume in seconds. Interior LPF. The low pass filter multiplier applied to interior sounds when outside 1.0 to apply the maximum LPF. Interior LPF time. Low time to fade to new low pass filter level in seconds.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Player start actor. Use player start actors to set up starting locations for players. For any Unreal Engine project that uses. Oh, I gotta drink water. Gotta make sure I'm rewarding myself for doing things. Player start actor. Use player start actors to set up starting locations for players. For any Unreal project that uses playable characters, use a player start actor to control where in the game world each player character will spawn at runtime. Player start actor is visually represented as a game controller icon with a flag and an arrow that indicates which direction the player will be facing when they spawn. When you select a player start actor, you see two additional components: a capsule that is a visual representation of the physical space in the actor occupies the game world, and the transform widget. Player start actor in the level left on select right selected. Click the image for full size. If your level doesn't have a player start actor, the player will always start at the 000 coordinates in the world. Placing a player start actor. Player start actors are placed into the level via drag and drop, same as other actors. You can have multiple player start actors in the level. Control which player start is used in the player spawn location using Blueprint or C++. In place of player start actor, follow these steps. Blah blah blah. Click the quick build button on the main toolbar. Select basic player start. Click and drag the player start actor into the level viewport. When using a player start actor to spawn a player, position rotation of the player's character will match the player start's position and rotation. If you want to have a player look at something specific when they spawn, make sure that the arrow component of the player start to use to spawn them is pointing in the direction that you want the player to look. If you have more than one player start actor in your level, the player will start from a random player start each time. Prioritizing level player start actors and unobstructed. Player start bad size warning. Replacing or moving a player start actor, you may see a white label with red borders and text bad size. This warning appears when the player's start actor overlaps or intersects with something else in the level, such as props or terrain. To resolve this, move the player's start until scouts components no longer overlaps or intersects with anything else. Using player start actors in blueprints. Unreal Engine has several blueprint nodes that you can use to work with player start actors. These are useful for a number of different scenarios, including respawning players at a player start actor's location, a respawning player at a different player start based on different conditions. The following nodes for working player start actors are available in the game mode blueprint. Find player start, finds player start actor in the level base that has a specific tag defined in the incoming name property. You can set up player start actor's tag from the actor's details panel. Restart player at player start. Respawns the player uses specified player start actor. The screenshot below shows an example of how to use these nodes to restart a player at the location of a player start within the tag. The start I want when pressing the E key. If you want to try this yourself, recreate these nodes in your project's game mode blueprint. With the image for full size. Knowing player start in Pi. When you preview your game in the Unreal Editor using Play Editor Pi, you don't want to spawn your character at the position of the player start actor. Instead, you want to navigate this location in your level. Start your Pi session from that location. You can right click your desired starting location in the level viewport and select play from here from the context menu. Despising player start behavior. Most of the behavior the player start actor is implemented in the find player start and choose player start functions of the game mode base class. At game mode base, if you want a different behavior, you can override one or both of these functions in your project's game mode class. For example, instead of having these functions choose player start actor at random as described above on this page, you might want them to choose one according to a different set of criteria, like the player start actor that is closest to the last checkpoint the player reached. Player start actor that is closest to the current location of the player's teammates. Other attributes associated with the player or their character, like their starting team assignment. Both the find player start and the choose player start functions are passed to the controller for the player being spawned in the player parameter. You can use this reference to access information about the player in your own implementations if necessary. Find player start. The engine calls find player start automatically whenever it needs to find starting position for a player. If that player has previously been spawned with an actor, mark its starting location. This function returns that actor. Otherwise, it calls choose player start to select an actor. This is a good choice override if you want to determine a different starting location when the player restarts than the one that was chosen. Choose. At least Blender has the excuse that they're Danish or whatever, so they don't have English as first language. So their docs are fucked. Every page has an error, but that's like the first error. initially join the game. Find player start also accepts an incoming name parameter. This name is provided. The default indentation looks for a player start actor has been assigned the matching string in its player start tag setting. If it finds a matching player start actor, it returns that actor. This behavior can be useful if you call find player start in your own gameplay code. However, the engine does not provide an incoming name in most cases when it calls find player start internally. Choose player start. The default implementation of choose player start chooses a player start actor at random, preferring those who are not affected by other blocking geometry. This is a good choice to override if you want to keep the default behavior of player start. Find player start in place. You want to use your own custom logic to choose a starting location when the player first joins the game. Example, the following implementation of find player start is from a blueprint class that derives from the game mode base. It gets the current game state and looks for a reference position called checkpoint location that has been saved in that game state. If it is able to get that reference position from the game state, it returns the player start actor that is closest to that position. How otherwise, it falls back on choosing a player start actor at random by calling the original implementation in the base class. Blah blah blah. Trigger volume actors. I gotta drink water. Thirsty boy. Trigger volume actors. Cool. Actor that can be activated and cause effects to occur in the level. Triggers are actors that are used to cause an event to occur when they are interacted with by some other object in the level. In other words, they are used to trigger events in response to some other action in the level. All the default triggers are generally the same, differing only in the shape of the area of influence, box, capsule, and sphere, used by the trigger to detect if other object has activated it. Box trigger, capsule trigger, sphere trigger. Placing triggers. Triggers can be placed in the level by dragging and dropping one of the trigger types. In selection mode, you can drag a trigger type from the Place Actor panel basic tab. Triggers are used to activate events placed inside the level blueprint. There are several different types of events that a trigger can activate. The main ones happen in response to some type of collision with another object, such as something hitting or overlapping with the trigger, or in response to input from the player. With the trigger selected in the viewport, right-click in the level blueprint event graph and choose one of the events under Add Event for actor name. You thought I forgot. Choosing an event via either of these methods results in an event node being added to the level blueprint for the current level. An exec pin of the new event node will fire each time a particular event occurs. In the example above, any time an actor overlaps or runs through the trigger. That's probably good.